When I was 22 years old, I went to a new doctor in my new town of San Francisco, and I said to my doctor, "Doctor, you've got to help me do something about this head pain." I had been suffering from migraines for at least the past 5 years at that point. "Well," he said, "I think you need to stop drinking alcohol." Okay, I looked at him astonished. It's not that I drank more than my friends, a bunch of other professionals in our early 20s and the late aughts, which is to say entirely too much. In any case, it didn't matter because what he said next to me was, "Well, look at your last name. You are Irish. You know how the Irish are with their alcohol." I left his office thinking to myself, did I really just hear that? My first experience as a white person with racism against me? Am I really more likely to be an alcoholic because of my Irish heritage? What is this, the 1860s? I was stunned, and I didn't go see him again, and his statement about my heritage actually blocked me from hearing something I needed to hear. Not necessarily that I was an alcoholic per se, though I'd be the first to tell you that my relationship with alcohol wasn't exactly healthy, but that drinking alcohol was a clear trigger for my migraines. It would take pretty intense pain and 10 more years for me to actually heed his advice and stop drinking alcohol altogether. This experience, this mild racism at my Irish heritage, is kind of funny, honestly. And it's an example of lots of my experiences with oppression. I'm an immigrant, but a white one from Canada, who experiences minor annoyances like people laughing at the frequency in which I say sorry, or hearing that our future president wants to take over my homeland. But for the most part, I blend in, I have citizenship, nobody tells me that I need to go back home. I'm transgender, but many people just see me as a guy, a short one. I get this, and get this, I used to be seen as a lesbian, and now people see me as a straight guy, so I leveled up twice. I got that sweet patriarchy upgrade. So yeah, I experience transphobia, but it's more the form of people being in shock to hear that I'm trans or referring to my cisgender wife as regular. This happened to me this week, anyhow, compared to me. But I don't, it's funny, right? But I don't fear for my life the way many transgender women, and particularly transgender women of color do, when going out on a date or getting a job or just trying to live their lives. Heck, I've experienced gender discrimination, but I don't anymore. Nothing has made me more of a feminist than seeing the ways I've been treated with so much more respect as a man. And I've struggled financially in my life. I've spent a year without health insurance in my 20s and didn't know if I would make rent. But I came from a wealthy enough background that I went to a private school and an Ivy League college and blended in with the upper middle class, whether I'm broke or not. And my migraines have been the same, a kind of invisible disability. So when I talk of justice, I have a particular bias, one that reveals what you might call my social location as a person with an immense amount of privilege. And yet, sometimes it feels like the distance between me and the next level of privilege is inconceivable. You might have heard that on Friday, our incoming president seems to be able to get away without any real consequences to his hush money trial. He was sentenced last week and received an unconditional discharge, meaning he faces no fines, no supervision or probation or incarceration for what he's done. And a result that no doubt would have been different for any of us, and doubly so if you're black or a person of color. But no, our legal system has once again showed us that if you have enough money, enough power, enough connections, you don't have to face consequences, even if you are found guilty, even if you are a felon. You can still be president just as long as you have the right connections. And as much as I think our justice system is usually too punitive, I find this outcome to be disgraceful. The very idea that our justice system can be applied so unequally based on who you are. in a country where black adults are still imprisoned at a rate of 5 times that of white adults, according to a 2021 study by the Sentencing Project, an organization that works to advocate for effective and humane responses to crime that minimize imprisonment and criminalization of youth and adults by promoting racial, ethnic, economic, and gender justice. Justice. There's that word again. Justice system, criminal justice, fighting for justice, the Justice League, social justice. Clearly, we aren't all working off the same definition of justice. Cornel West famously said, "Never forget that justice is what love looks like in public." Theodore Parker, Universalist minister, said, "The arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice." Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Whose justice, though? Clearly, we aren't all on the same page in this country about what justice looks like. So what does that mean for us as Unitarian Universalists? Well, in June of 2024, our Unitarian Universalist Association adopted a series of new shared values, and one of them was justice, and here's what we say about it. Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregation, our association, and society at large. So I agree with this definition of justice, but on days like this, it sometimes feels like as a society, we'll never get there. But in small places, there is hope. Friends, I have something to share with you about hope. Something that tells me that at least in this little corner of the world, we are trying our best, doing the little things we can do to create justice in our midst. You heard me talk earlier about my migraine headaches. You may or may not know that I actually suffer from 2 chronic pain conditions, the other being something called trigeminal neuralgia, a related but separate condition having to do with nerve pain in my face. I've managed these chronic conditions for most of my life with mixed success. Yet over the past few months, this pain has become impossible to ignore, and it started having a significant impact on my life. If you've had a meeting canceled with me recently, this is probably why. And I found that staring at a computer screen for even 20 minutes leaves me in debilitating pain. And so I want you to know, and if you've been zoning out, now's the time to pay attention. I want you to know that I'm going to take some time off to help me manage with this condition. It's become clear that I need to pivot how I've been treating it, so I'm going to take some time off work with my doctors to focus on how to manage this. This means I'm going to be taking the next 2 months of work off, effective tomorrow, using a combination of accrued sick and vacation time. You will be in good hands. Our fantastic staff, wonderful community ministers, and incredible lay leadership will make it seem like I'm barely gone. And 2 months will fly by. It's much shorter than the 5-month sabbatical I took 2 years ago. And typically I'm gone for almost that long in the summer, though this summer you'll get to see more of me. But what brings me hope about this is how those who have heard of this have responded. You see, I've been afraid to share something like this. Would you think I'm weak, unable to do my job? And so I've been hiding it, masking my pain as much as I'm able, afraid to tell you what's really going on. But I really shouldn't have been. This congregation has been constantly teaching me about justice, and my own fears and self-deprecation due to what is a disability have not been mirrored by anyone I've talked to. So when I brought up my need to take this time with the executive team, they said, of course. In fact, Aisha Cruz, one of our co-presidents, called me out for not doing it sooner and waiting for it to be an emergency, though they admitted they understood. My committee on ministry, the committee that's charged with supporting me, was like, of course. The staff and community ministers have been so supportive. And when I told this to our contact at the Unitarian Universalist Association about how relieved I was about this response, she said, as they should. They support you as they should. Friends, I don't need to tell you that not all employers are this way. Many of you have shared about your disabilities with me and how it's impacted you, and in your workplace and in all areas of your lives. And perhaps most poignantly here, many of my colleagues, other ministers, have shared about how hard it is for them to take time off. But so far, I've been pretty proud of the culture we've built here, that you've built. We worked to be diverse, multicultural communities where all thrive. Yes, we have work to do. We always will, especially on that multicultural part. But we are creating a community where our values of justice, even extend to our staff. To me, which is no small feat. When new members are welcome into this congregation, we say that we make space for each other even when we can't follow through. And I hope that has been true for you, like it has been true for me. And as we head into this next presidential administration with all that comes with it, with the fears that many of us have as members of impacted communities and not, and the concern we see for what might be done, we have to recognize that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Our reading this morning from a meditation manual on addiction, published by the UUA Publishing House, Skinner House Press, has lessons for us all. That the world is on fire, literally. The impacts of climate change are coming fast, and yet sometimes that urgency has to take a back seat to the slow and steady calm that comes with our own personal healing as we create the garden of beloved community that Dr. King imagined. This experience has taught me that I am of no use if I push myself through the pain, as I've been doing for far too long. I simply cannot contribute to justice as we envision it if I'm not recognizing that justice includes all people thriving in our communities, including me, including you. There's a tension though, right? We talk a lot about what we need to do to create justice in our world, and it is urgent. Yet sometimes we have to care for ourselves to care for the world. There's this idea that I love about justice work being like music. When a choir holds a long note, they all need to take breaths at different times in order to be able to continue the music. And it's the same, right, for justice work. I need to take my breath right now so that you can take one later. I want to end this morning from this perhaps a little disjointed sermon, but this truly real sermon, by reminding you that I love you, that you constantly teach me about love and justice, and I look forward to when we'll be together again. May it be so. Let us say together, Amen. Amen.